Welcome, everyone.
Morning.
Nice to see you all.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Good morning.
Why doesn't everybody come off mute to say hello? And then we'll have folks go back on mute just so we don't have any background noise. So if you'd like to come off and just say hi, and we'll also do introductions in the chat.
Hi, everyone.
Okay.
I hope your morning's going well.
Nice to see you
Hi,
all.
everybody.
Hi
Good morning.
there.
Good morning.
All right, we have a critical mass. We are going to get started. So thanks to everybody for arriving on time to help us make the most out of this time together today. This masterclass I've created for you is focused on 4 common mistakes that may be holding you back in your career and what to do about them. I'm Erica Madison, founder of Erica Madison Coaching and Consulting. I'm an executive coach and a certified career advisor. I specialize in helping professionals successfully navigate career challenges and transitions so they can live with more joy and impact and less stress. I invite you to share in the chat, where are you joining from? And why did you say yes to the invitation to participate in today's masterclass? Go ahead and share that in the chat. And I'm excited to have Laurel here today assisting. So she's going to help make sure that things are flowing smoothly. Thank you, Laurel. All right, those introductions are starting to roll in. We have folks from the Midwest. Where else are folks joining from today? Let's see. We have people who are looking to make career transitions, and that's what prompted them to join today. Absolutely. We have New England in the house. Also interested in career transitions. More New England. We have some folks from Massachusetts. We have Rhode Island. Some folks seeking to evolve their practice. And we have the West Coast. Welcome, California. Okay, so people who are between roles in the clean tech industry, negotiating offers and looking to learn from actions from the past. And to those of us who just joined, thank you, Laurel, for repeating the question in the chat. Where are you joining from and why did you say yes to the invitation? So let's keep those introductions coming, and I'm going to keep moving us along since we have a lot of ground to cover. I want to really congratulate you for showing up for yourself today. That's the first most essential part of creating a career that you love. I'm going to share some material with you to help you shift your perspective. Along the way, I'll address questions, so go ahead and put those in the chat. And I may invite you to come off of mute to say a little bit more. I've adapted concepts from the book Deep Work by Cal Newport, which builds upon learnings from the book The 4 Disciplines of Execution. Newport's book is all about how to focus on the work that really matters and not get distracted by the small stuff. He calls focused work deep work. It involves concentration and consistency. I found the book fascinating because people are constantly sharing with me that they're looking for more focus in their career, more direction. Does this sound familiar to you? Go ahead and put focus in the chat if focus is something that you are looking for more of. Anyone out there from California to New England to the other places that are represented here today looking for more focus in their careers? Yes. That's resonating with some folks. So here are 4 common mistakes that may be holding you back in your career and what to do about them. And I do encourage you to take notes if you have a notebook handy. The first one I'll share is that your approach is scattered. The solution to this is to focus on what Newport calls the wildly important. You want to identify a small number of ambitious goals to pursue in your deep work hours. Now, for different people, those hours will fall at different times of day. You might feel that you are particularly awake and alert and energetic in the mornings, or maybe not so much. It really depends on the person. And that's something that you need to find out for yourself. And sometimes it takes a little bit of experimentation. I know for me, I left my full-time job a little over a year ago to go all in with my coaching and consulting practice, which I had been leading for a number of years on the side, in addition to working 9 to 5. And it's been a really interesting learning experience for me as I navigate what I want my life to be like, what I want it to feel like and look like. What do I want my rhythms to be? Do I like to get up and start working right away because I'm excited and creative and I want to get things done? And, how do I balance that with also wanting to spend some time outdoors and get some sun on my face in the morning and not just start off the day always being in front of the computer, right? And so it's kind of this thing that I've been navigating, I've been exploring and learning and trying different things. And so when you think about these deep work hours that you can create for yourself, you want to ask yourself the question, what will deliver tangible benefits? So a question for you, what kinds of tangible benefits would be meaningful for you? Go ahead and put into the chat what comes up for you. Thank you for sharing. Jill, I see that you shared a response to that you're looking to have control over your schedule. Would you be willing to come off of mute and say a little bit more about that? And we will get to hear more from Jill in just a few minutes as well.
Yeah, I think it became clear to me that this was a goal of mine during the pandemic when I naturally got a little bit more control over my schedule. The company I was with really did make some efforts to give everyone time to ease into this new completely remote way of working. And I don't want to lose that. I'd like to gain more of it. So it's just really important to me. I think it's helped shape my notion of balancing or integrating work and non-work life. The schedule's a really key part of that for me.
Thank you for sharing that, Jill. Yes, our schedules have so much to do with our day-to-day quality of life. And for each person, that's going to be, those are going to be different needs. And David, would you be willing to come off of mute and share a little bit more about what you put in the chat?
Sure. Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, when I think about the deep work that you're referring to, one of the things that comes to mind is that sometimes it helps to do the work around the work before diving in, because there are so many distractions. And so some of the other things that help me prepare for that deep work and get into the zone, into the flow, are things like exercise or mindfulness practice and even something as simple as cleaning your space and getting some of the smaller little distractions out of the way, so that when you do go into the deep work mode that you're talking about, you're really focused. And sometimes you can get thrown off track by doing all the small things instead of just going into the deep. So that's one of the things that, hope to learn from this practice and from your expertise.
Yes, that is the trick of it, right? So right before we got on this masterclass together, I did exactly what you just said, which is I cleared the space, right? I just have in front of me what I really need for this moment. And I did remember to get my glass of water because that's important. And so what do you need to do to set yourself up? This is a question for all of you. And thank you, David, for sharing. This is a question for all of us, which is to, be thinking about what are the tools that I need to set myself up for success with my deep work. And to David's point, how do I do that without getting so distracted by trying to make my space perfect and maybe do all the little things on my to-do list? Because then we look at our clock and we say, oh my goodness, it's 2 p.m. What just happened to the day? I was supposed to do my deep work at 10 and now it's 2 and I haven't even eaten lunch, and I need to do this deep work, right? And so how can we set some boundaries, have some limits, and rein in some of our tendencies that may end up sort of being procrastination? I don't know, raise your hand. Do you ever procrastinate? I know that's happened to me once or twice. Yeah. So those are things that we definitely need to become mindful of. Absolutely. Yes, thank you for sharing that, David. And so I'm also seeing, Roberta, you were sharing about the availability to do the things that you enjoy. Would you be willing to share a little bit more about that?
Yes. So currently, I'm a behavior consultant. I'm trying to kind of pivot into policy as a social worker. So I'm also in school along with working a full-time job. So with that comes a lot of time and trying to find like that balance where, okay, I have to get my schoolwork done on top of making sure that, I'm getting my goals and stuff with the kiddos that I'm working with at work. And so again, just trying to find that happy medium at least, to where, okay, I'm doing this and I'm doing well in these areas. Okay, so how can I kind of give myself more of like self-care or practice self-care and just like again, like kind of that clear conscious, because it also gives me a lot of anxiety, like a lot of anxiety induced because of a lot of the work that I'm doing. And so kind of like just
Sure.
trying to find that balance with everything is really hard. So I'm also trying to navigate that. But that's definitely one of the things, just being more available and like, I guess also being able to utilize my time a bit better too. So
Absolutely. Yeah, when you're working in service of others, it's incredibly important to also make sure that you are not only serving others, but you are also serving yourself.
yeah.
That's foundational, right? And so, you may not be able to do tons of self-care every single day, but when you look at a week, I just read a really phenomenal book. I think it was called 168 Hours. It's on the recommended reading list on my website. If you go to ericamadison.com, you go to the recommended reading list, you'll see some terrific books, and this is one of them that I just added. And in this book, she talks about how, look, I think it's 168 hours in 1 week. So instead of looking at things as a day, oh, I have to get everything done today, can we look at it as a week? Okay, you have 7 days. You can get a lot done in 7 days, the author says. You have time for physical fitness, you have time to be outdoors, you have time to be with loved ones, you have time for meditation, you have time for your career development, you have time to do your work, you have time for school, learning, et cetera, maybe cooking a few meals, right? Like there is a lot of time in 1 week, but are we frittering it away? Or are we really prioritizing those high impact things? And sometimes high impact things can be taking a nap, okay? Like that can be super high impact. So let's not fool ourselves into thinking that everything that's high impact and high value has to be productive and doing work. No, doesn't have to be, okay? I have clients who were denying themselves things that they loved, like going on hikes and, things like that. And then when they freed themselves up to do that during their job search, they actually enhanced their ability to be effective at their job search. They found that they were connecting with people in their network more, which was helping to uncover opportunities. They were having serendipitous encounters with, people. They were, running into like college roommates on the hike and reconnecting, and like that would then lead to a coffee, which then maybe that would lead to a job, and so forth and so on. So like really thinking holistically about our lives. This is part of why I also became a master certified life coach, in addition to being a certified career services provider, because I really believe in the interconnectedness of our lives and our work lives. Okay, our personal lives and our professional lives. These things are not totally disconnected. And when we act like they are, we really usually do ourselves a disservice, and we don't end up creating the kind of situations that are actually going to help us thrive and fulfill our potential and have the kind of impact that we are capable of having. Is this resonating with anyone? Go ahead and throw a yes in the chat if this is speaking to you at all. Seeing some yeses. Okay, great. All right, let's keep rolling. So we talked about tangible benefits, okay, things that would be meaningful to you that you can do if you create these deep hours for yourself. And we talked about how different times of day are going to be better for deep hours for us than others. And it might depend on the season or the weather or different factors like this, right? It's not a static thing, it's fluid, okay? And at the same time, there needs to be some consistency, okay? So the second thing that I'll share with you, this common mistake is around focus, okay? So there's more focus on the past than the present and the future. And instead of this, you want to act on what we call the lead measures, LEAD. Let me explain what this means. A lag measure, LAG, lag measure, is when the performance is already in the past. But lead measures are about new behaviors that will drive success on those lag measures. So one of you mentioned in your introduction that you're looking to learn from things that have happened in your past, which is a beautiful thing. I think that's really why we're here, not just in this masterclass, but in the broader sense. And so the lead measures are the time that you spend in deep work on your most important goal. It means focusing on what's in your control, the things you can actually do something about. So go ahead and put the phrase deep work in the chat if you feel like your approach to your career could benefit from more deep work. That is concentrated time on what matters most. Yes, 3 cheers for deep work. All right, the third mistake I'm going to share with you that could be holding you back in your career is that you're feeling demotivated by what feels like a lack of progress. The solution to this common mistake is to keep a scorecard. How many hours are you putting into the deep work? Create a scorecard and display it. This is a way of being accountable to yourself. And you can indicate the moments when you achieve a key result, like a milestone. And that is going to help you have a realistic idea of the amount of time that is needed to get to such a point. So sometimes we have a tendency to maybe underestimate how long something's going to take. Oh, it'll only take me 10 minutes to create a beautifully tailored cover letter for this job I'm excited to apply for. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. That's what I have to say to that. Okay. So if you think it's 10 minutes, my response is, yeah, right. You really need to track how long things like that actually take. And I know how long those things can take for people who are not accustomed to creating them. And that's actually why I recently started working with somebody who specializes in writing resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn profiles. And it's amazing how she is able to put together materials within just a few days. It's really incredible. Things that most regular people would struggle with for, you know, inordinate amounts of time, and that would really hold them back from going after the kinds of opportunities that they're interested in, because they feel like they don't have the types of materials that are going to help them land interviews. And so in some cases they say, why even bother? I'm not even going to apply. Or they might be at the other end of the spectrum where they're churning out tons of applications that are not tailored, they're not effective, and then they wonder why they're not hearing back, and they're not getting screening calls, they're not getting interviews, and then they're maybe feeling bad about themselves. Gee, what's wrong with me? Why does nobody want me? Why am I not getting any calls? I have experience, I have skills. What's going on here? What do I need to do differently? Am I applying to the wrong kinds of jobs? Am I qualified for these things? All those kinds of doubts and questions come up when we're using materials that are really not doing us justice, when they're not shining a spotlight on our qualifications, our skills, and so forth. So a question for you is, how does tracking your progress help you increase your motivation? Go ahead and share in the chat. How does tracking your progress help you increase your motivation? Anybody have any quick examples of that they can share? Go ahead and add that in the chat. Absolutely. Jill, would you be willing to come off of mute briefly and share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think it kind of gets you out of, just focusing on what's right in front of you and losing sight of the big picture. In all sorts of different areas of life, not even just professionally. I think I've sort of tried to practice this habit of, stop your thinking when it's not productive and you're focusing on the negative or what's not where you want it to be, and really remind yourself of what you have accomplished, because every little step toward a goal is a step closer to it. So having not even to rack your brain for those things, to have something actually tangible and concrete to look back on, you can skip a step and maybe get back to that productive thinking faster.
Thank you. All right, so keep those coming, everyone. And the fourth and final common career mistake I'll be sharing with you today, before we hear from Jill about her career journey. This is something that you could be making. This is a mistake you could be making. And this is that a sense of accountability is missing. So the solution to this mistake is to create a rhythm of accountability through regular meetings or reviews. A weekly review can help you celebrate, reflect, and plan. It can help you stay focused for the long haul as well. You can have a weekly check-in with yourself if there's not really anybody else to have a check-in with, or maybe with your colleagues or a coach to help you stay on track. It's really amazing what deadlines can do. I know for me, I've worked with a number of different coaches who I have hired to help me in different aspects of my life, my career, and my business. And when I know I'm going to be meeting with one of my coaches, I get my act together. I look at what I said I was going to do. I document things. I send them an update maybe. I get organized. If there was something I was supposed to watch or listen to or what have you, I do that before I meet with them. And I make sure that I am prepared so that I can make the most out of my time with that coach. So for me, that's been some really valuable accountability. And what I'll also say about that is there's even this concept of having a capability partner. You've probably heard about accountability partners, which is something that people have really appreciated from participating in my group coaching program that I offer a few times a year. It's a 6-week program. And they've really appreciated having an accountability partner. But what I realized recently is not only can we think of this in terms of accountability partners, but from a colleague of mine in Toronto, I learned about actually thinking of this as a capability partner, right? So it's not that I'm like accountable to you if we are buddies in the same group coaching program, but it's really that you are helping me step into my potential. You are helping me fulfill my capabilities. And so I really appreciate this idea of calling it a capability partner as opposed to an accountability partner. There's just, the words that we use matter. And it affects our mindset. It affects how we think about things and how we show up, how we feel. And so this is a new phrase for me that I've recently adopted and I'm integrating into my work. So this concept of a capability partner. And so I'm curious, please go ahead and share in the chat, how could having a capability partner impact your career journey? Love to hear about that from folks. Thank you for sharing. This is a new concept for some of you. Yes, I recently learned about it myself. So helping you keep motivated to keep going. Sure. Helping you stay on track, brainstorming different action items together, and really helping you be accountable to yourself. Wonderful. So now that I've covered these 4 common career mistakes that could be holding you back, I'm going to invite Jill to share about her journey and how she overcame some key challenges. As she shares, I invite you to listen for themes that you can relate to, and then we'll have some time to share afterwards. So Jill, welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad I reached out to you, Erica, and we could set this up.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time. So Jill and I worked together recently, and Jill's going to share a bit about her story. So Jill, tell us a little bit about what you were struggling with and why you reached out to me in the first place.
Yeah, so I was struggling with, and I think, Erica, it was working with you that helped me articulate what this was exactly, but I could tell that something had shifted in terms of what made me feel fulfilled and accomplished professionally. And so what I really wanted moving forward professionally. And now I can recognize that, the things I used to value, and I think it led to some growth for me for a period of time where, what my income was, that was really important to me. I started my career as a classroom educator without a master's degree. So really, if you Google public school pay anywhere, really starting at the very beginning, I said, okay, this is where I'm starting. But I always had, ambition to really grow there. Once I got out of the classroom, I became very focused on growth within an organization. So focusing on my titles. And I placed so much value in what, not necessarily my direct superiors, but sort of company leadership thought of me. I felt my most proud when I knew that the work I had done was visible. And when I had caught the eye of somebody at, a leadership level that, I hadn't necessarily caught the eye of before. And I noticed probably late 2022, early this year, that those things just started to mean a little bit less to me. And I had to then answer the question, well, then where am I going to be getting my meaning from? And that was part of what prompted me to reach out to Erica. I was feeling stuck. I was feeling like for the first time, I didn't really know where to look next or, what it was that would kind of keep me going. And, we can get to it, but our work together definitely helped me figure out what those things were.
So what I'm hearing you share is that you weren't entirely sure what you wanted when you reached out, but you knew that you were looking to create meaning through your work. And you shared that you were feeling stuck and you weren't sure where to look next. Say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think part of my feeling that I didn't know where to look next was that I wasn't ready to say out loud some of the things that I had an inkling I might want to explore because they were so new to me, and it was such a deviation from what my professional pathway had always looked like. I got to a point where I felt, okay, I think I may be ready to move on from this organization. That felt natural. I generally have stayed with different companies for 3 to 5 years, and I was about there. But my gosh, the thought of going on LinkedIn and trying to find something, I do know some people who think that's fun, but for me, it was never fun, but it felt different this time. It felt like, yeah, sure, I suppose I could apply to this, but I don't, what's that getting me that I'm not getting where I am now? It was bringing me this sense of dread. And, I think that was part of what we started to talk about, Erica. I thought maybe it was that my role had begun to feel so niche. I was in a very cross-functional operational role. So I did a lot for the team I was on, and there are certainly benefits to that, but I felt like, I don't even know what title I should be looking for. I don't know how to describe the work I do. I thought maybe that was it, and I needed some help figuring out what I should be looking for at a new company next. That was sort of the beginning of our conversation.
Sure. And so really not knowing where to start is what I'm taking away from what you're sharing, Jill, that you weren't really sure what you had to gain. Like there were some good things about your situation. And so it was like, well, I don't know if I want to move on. Like I just don't know. But clearly something wasn't working for you. Otherwise, you wouldn't have really been thinking about making some kind of change.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew it was time for something, and it was figuring out what that something would be. And you popped up on my LinkedIn feed, and I read a bit about your work and your solutions. And I felt like I certainly owe it to myself to at least connect and have someone who does this professionally and has deep expertise in this to help me solve this problem, because I think I got to a point where I didn't feel I could solve that on my own.
And when you got to this point where you felt like you couldn't just do it on your own, how did you know? How did you know that you were in a place where it sort of felt like too much to try to carry that weight on your own? Were there any signs for you?
I think, again, it was sort of a shift in my values. It felt for the first time, I've invested in myself. I work with a fitness and nutrition coach, and it was similar to that of feeling like, you kind of add up the value of all my own time I have spent trying to solve these problems. And then you recognize that there's, a professional who does this, and, let's invest in that. And so it was a similar moment, that was something in my personal life, but then in my professional life, I thought, yeah, I think I've done a good job in my career so far. And I just, there was something in me that said, I think this is time now to amp it up a bit and really invest in myself in this way. I don't know how else to articulate it. It felt like there was a little bit of a shift in the way I viewed it. That it's okay and valuable and important to invest in yourself now in this way, the way I have in some other areas of life.
So it seems like you were looking to up level your career, and with that, your life.
Yeah. Somebody had said to me ages ago, is it really work-life balance or is it integrating? And that has stuck with me. And I think about that a lot and what that means. And I still noodle over it. But the two are certainly mixed together. And yeah, it just felt like they're not separate. I can't just continue to pretend that, they're in these two separate boxes and they're not impacting one another. So it felt very much like the right time to say, okay, let's get serious about this.
And was there anything you felt you needed to do to prepare to work with a coach on your career development?
I felt that I had to answer a few questions for myself first, that I had to just take some time to kind of sit in the quiet and really think about, what are the things that I'm happy with and fulfilled by? What are the things that, don't check those boxes? And again, like I had said earlier, there are things that I just never really said out loud to anyone about what I might want to try. And getting that a little bit straight in my head, a lot of that work did happen together. But even for that first introductory session, I did want to make sure that I was taking that time that I think I owed to myself to just get a few things straight in my head, at least in terms of, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I knew it wasn't to, focus on my resume or my LinkedIn profile. I knew it wasn't that type of work that I was wanting. I knew it wasn't how to excel in my current role or my current organization. I knew it was really looking for what was next and different. So I thought it was helpful to go in with those basics. But, I think the work really started after that session.
So this clarity that you were seeking was something that was really important for you. This, what direction would I like to go in next?
Yeah.
And creating basically a container for yourself, like a safe space to be creative, to dream, to imagine, to vocalize some things that maybe you hadn't shared with many people before. Maybe you didn't even fully realize yourself. And so what kinds of things were you able to do that helped you overcome some of these challenges?
I think something that was really helpful, and in retrospect, simple, but I don't know that I'd given myself the permission to really do it. Again, my most recent role that I was in for 5 years was so cross-functional. It was to sort of separate it out, to land on, well, what are the moments during your day that you're really feeling like you're finding joy and fulfillment in? And what are the things that you're happy enough to do because it allows you to stay employed and you're part of a team, and, contributing to a team, was bringing me some sense of fulfillment, but really piecing out, but really, when are you happy during your day? And what are the things that you wish you could just turn off the other distractions for? You could just shut down Outlook and you could just work on this project. And it didn't take too long for me to realize that that was writing. It was the pieces of my work that allowed me to just sit and think and write, maybe do a little bit of research, some collaboration to get the nuggets of content that I needed. And what was interesting there was that it was a very quick connection to my sort of outside of work. I'd always, when you're asked that question, if you could do anything, what would you do? So I would be an author. I would write, and there are a lot of things that in retrospect, I kind of laugh at that I didn't see. But just that practice of saying, no one else is going to hear this. And to be honest, it would have been fine if others heard it, but this is just you sort of thinking out loud, what makes you happy. And for some reason, I was hesitant to do that before. I felt like, well, yeah, but that doesn't really matter because this is my job and I have to do all of these things. So a lot of it was giving myself that permission and letting somebody sort of, for lack of a better term, coax it out of me a little bit, help me feel comfortable and confident to think that through and to say those things.
So introspection was a big part of your experience.
Yeah. Yeah. There are even moments, Erica, where I got there and I was good to say, I really like writing. And I then went into the specific ways that I would write for my work that I did really enjoy. And then there was a moment that I said, I kind of like writing about fashion too. And the way I said it, you said, why did you say it like that? I said, I don't know. And you said, you're saying it like you think it's silly. And I said, well, I think others might think it's silly. And so there was a lot of work that we did there too, to just help me get past that. And now, when I chat with one of my sisters about it, they're like, yeah, you love that. There's just excitement and support. And so again, it's one of those other things I look back on, and it's cool to see that growth pretty quickly, just with kind of getting through that. Maybe someone out there thinks it's silly, but does that really matter at all for me? No, it doesn't.
And what other kinds of fears do you feel that you needed to grapple with to enable this learning and growth to take place?
It was so much internal, because I look at, people in my life who have gone out there and done their own thing. And it's nothing but admiration and a bit of envy. For some reason, I got really hung up on, yeah, but if I do it, it's going to look different. And even the way I would phrase it, it would always, okay, so I'm clearly thinking about how others will be perceiving this. And I don't perceive this that way. So I think it was just really getting past that notion of, if I walk away from a full-time job and I really do start to focus on creating something for myself that I will be happy doing, is that going to look like I'm just trying to, having a really great flexible schedule look like I'm just trying to work less, for example. Those are the types of things that I was getting a little bit hung up on. And I know how much work will go into this. And I know those close to me, my loved ones, my husband, my family, will never doubt the work I'm putting into things. And so there's work I've done and will have to continue doing to remind myself, well, then that's enough. Stop there. So get back to the work, because I'm just creating or giving into another distraction.
So a lot of things around enoughness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Am I enough? What makes me enough? What do I need to do? How many hours do I need to work? How much do I need to write? What does it need to look like? So, they say that we either are coming from a place of fear or a place of love in any moment, with any action, with any reaction, with any decision, fear or love.
Right.
And so how does that relate to the work that you've been doing these past few months? That notion of coming from fear or coming from love?
I think it's been a practice of flipping the script for me. I'll kind of elephant in the room, I did actually end up losing my job about 6 weeks ago. There was a reorg at my company, and I'm sort of in this moment where I can really explore this. And I said, do not panic. Do not go on LinkedIn and start rapid fire sending your resume through their easy apply feature, is because you think that will make you feel accomplished. Don't give in to that. And instead I said, you're taking a week. You're relaxing. It was right before the 4th of July. I said, okay, you've got some plans coming up anyway. You're relaxing. You're not diving into that. And it was sort of looking at my activity in a different way. A really concrete example, there was one day last week where I reached out to a few contacts, and I was at my laptop for, 2.5, 3 hours probably, and making some lists and jotting down some ideas and getting organized. And very quickly, I had 3 meetings lined up for the next week. And I said, okay, that's awesome for about 3 hours. I could come from a place of fear and say, keep going, because the traditional workday is 8 and you've only put in 3 and it's noon, you can't walk away now. And I stopped and I said, look at what you've done. That's awesome. Go for a walk and come back and see if there's more there, but certainly don't just type away for the sake of getting those hours to tally up, And so to me, that felt like a good example of that, of just the way I was talking to myself. I almost flew right past this moment to kind of stop and celebrate for a minute, to be hard on myself that I only worked for a few hours. And it was like, this is sort of the benefit that you were looking for. You've got this flexibility. It's only your permission that you need. I'm so early on, but it felt like an exciting moment to get the meetings, but also to sort of view it in that way.
Yes. So building in time to celebrate.
Yeah.
To look and say, hey, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That helps build that momentum, that motivation. And yes, you're looking back and saying, hey, this is what I said I wanted. Now I'm actually doing it. Am I going to exercise some gratitude some
Mhm.
appreciation, some recognition, or am I going to focus on what we call the gap? There's a great book also on my recommended reading list called The Gap and the Gain. And in this book, they recommend that we do take that time to focus on the gains that we've made, the progress, the learning, the growth, and use it as motivation to keep going,
Right.
but not just focus on the distance between where I am and where I want to go,
Right.
or the ideal,
Mhm.
or what my friends look like they're doing. Right. And so I applaud you for retraining yourself, creating new ways of doing things that are going to serve you really well.
Mhm.
I'm a few steps ahead of you in certain areas, and I can say that the more that you can cultivate some of these things now in these really, really early days as this, entrepreneur, the better. Yeah. So absolutely not letting that judge and that inner critic dominate, but instead really saying, hey, you know what? A work day doesn't have to be 8 hours. Like, that is just this made up thing. And if I, as an entrepreneur, as a writer, as a this, as a that, if I decide that the most important things for me to do today are this, this, and this, or the things to grapple with are this and this and this, and I've done that, and I can say I've made some progress, I've made some headway, I'm feeling good about the trajectory here, then hey, yeah, go for a walk,
Right.
go play with the dog,
Mhm.
go to the park, go make something yummy to eat, go dance, whatever it is, right? Go play the piano, like, enjoy life, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, a couple more minutes of our conversation together, Jill. Could you share a little bit about, when you think back on sort of the person you were just a few months ago before we started working together, and you think about who you are today, say a little bit more about some of that learning and growth that has happened and how that really impacts your life.
Yeah. I think, in some ways I'm still getting there, but largely I have a different sense of confidence in myself. Um, it's interesting. I think that I have felt confident in my skills. I wrote this down when you were saying something. It was more getting the confidence to say that, or to feel like, but it's okay to say that out loud to others who are really in need of the services that I'm offering. It was sort of, very comfortable in my bubble, to say, well, this is what I can do, so I can do it, under an employer. And it was just gaining the confidence to say, and I can take that out and do that on my own. I can strip out the parts that I know I'm really good at and that I actually really love to do, and take that to others. And so the level of confidence I have in myself is certainly higher. I also feel more equipped to handle it when it dips again. I sort of know where to go and what to think back on, and I'm aware of it, and I don't brush it away. I do sit in it for a moment. But I just think that, embracing this and really going for this, it is not something I would have done late last year, because I thought, well, others can do it, but I can't. And, I'm just in a very different place there. And, feeling excited about it. And I think being real with myself about, sure, when you accept a position and this is for me, right? This is for me personally. I could accept a position in a new company and have a package ready to go. This is my salary starting today. These are the benefits you get starting today. And there is something enticing about that because there's security there. But also saying out loud, this will grow slower, and maybe your income will look like this in a few years, and it won't right away. And that is a fact, and that is something that you can count on. And now that you know that, okay, good, go forth. It's sort of, saying these things out loud and then realizing, okay, but is that really the end of the world? No, I can structure my life around that. So it's like, it's embracing these things that would have just completely shut any notion of doing this down. okay, nope, put that away, put that idea away, keep doing your thing. And instead of it, it's just really knowing what to do with those thoughts so they don't stop me. Those are some definite ways that I've changed.
So it sounds like coming from a place of love is something that you are increasingly doing, as opposed to coming from a place of fear, that you are cultivating, belief in yourself, this can-do attitude.
Mhm.
This like, okay, yeah, I don't know how to do that exactly, but I can figure it out. And I know that there is support.
Mhm.
And I don't have to try to figure it all out or do it all alone, that there are people out there who can help with various aspects of what I might want to create, right? There are partnerships and collaborations and coaches and, groups and what have you that can have my back. And I don't have to try to just figure this all out alone and do this all alone.
Mhm.
And there's this excitement, this energy to it, this hopefulness from that I feel like as you share.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for sharing your story. I know that takes a lot of courage. I want to congratulate you on the learning and growth that you have been investing in creating for yourself. It's been a joy to work with you thus far. I'd like to invite folks to share in the chat any key takeaways from Jill's story. How does Jill's story relate to you? And you may not be, in the exact same situation as Jill. That's okay. You may be in a very different situation, but I bet that there are some concepts or practices, some themes or something that do relate to you and your unique situation. And I'm curious what those are. So if anybody is comfortable sharing those in the chat before we start to wind down, I would love to learn those.
I can relate the concept that you guys are talking about when it comes to you're either doing something out of fear or love. And even with like just with what I want to go into, like with going into policy, like with legal studies and everything, there is a fear in me sometimes because I'm coming out of a whole different career field and kind of doing that pivot. And so there is like this frightening factor where it's like, am I taking the right steps and, making sure that I'm doing the right things to get into this field or this career field. And then it's like, that I think she also hit on this where it's like, if we're doing it right, what's the indicator or like something that's keeping us on track to let us know that we're doing something right or that we're taking necessary steps.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So this sort of this question of how do I know what steps to take to facilitate the change that I want to bring about in my career and my life? Right? Does that resonate with anyone? I know for me, like when I was thinking about leaving the sort of comfort of my 9-to-5 job to go all in with my practice, I had a lot of fear and a lot of love. And I was trying to let the love win. And it was like this battle between love and fear every day. Like, should I do it? Should I, what am I thinking? Oh my goodness. Meanwhile, I had coaching clients who were thinking of leaving consulting and freelancing to go back into working a 9-to-5. And they were, struggling to do that. And I was coaching them through it. But then I was thinking to myself, gee, should I really do this? Maybe this is not such a smart move, Erica Madison. Maybe this is maybe you should just skip this and continue with a 9-to-5. But the thing is that, going back to the conversation with Jill, we all need to develop our own personal success criteria. So what is a successful career for you, right? It's different for Jill than it's going to be for Scott, than it's going to be for David. So that is part of the work. It's not really about other people. Yes, you can learn from other people. They have a lot to offer in terms of their story, their experience. But as a coach, when people ask me for advice about anything, even if a friend will say like, hey, a friend said to me, my girlfriend wants to, or no, my wife wants to get an e-bike. What kind of e-bike would you recommend? And I said, it depends on what her goals are. Right. So, I'm really into bicycling, but I'm not just going to say somebody, go get this brand or go get this type or what have you. I don't know what your needs are. Right. And so that's where it really starts with that self-awareness that Jill was expressing about, and doing some self-assessments. That's something that's typically part of my work with clients, to help them really understand their transferable skills, understand their priorities when it comes to their personal life as well as their professional life, understand their interests and their values, right? What kind of a positive difference do you want to make in this world? And so as we start to close out, I have an invitation for you. In recognition that you showed up for yourself today, I'm excited to invite you to set up what I call a wildly important goals call with me. This is from the book that I was sharing about earlier. When we are in that deep work, it is so important to be focused on those wildly important goals, not the little stuff that's just distraction, but what really matters, what is going to be personally meaningful to you. And so Laurel's going to share a link in the chat. I invite you all to open up this link and book some time. To lead a fulfilling career, it's essential that you identify a small number of ambitious goals to focus on. And so that's why this is called a wildly important goals call. And again, I want to congratulate you for showing up for yourself, and I look forward to speaking with you soon. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes for folks who might have some questions that they'd like to bring up, and we'll get through as many as we can in the next few minutes. So again, thank you to Jill. Can we all give Jill a round of applause for sharing her story today? I know I'm feeling pumped up from what she shared about, and any key takeaways anyone wants to throw in the chat from what Jill shared, please put that in there. And again, kudos to you all for being here today, for investing the time. It's been a pleasure to be with all of you. I do look forward to having one-on-one conversations with you. I provide a variety of services. One-on-one coaching is one option. Many folks I work with, we make a tremendous amount of progress within the span of weeks, not even months necessarily, although months can help. But sometimes transformations can actually happen in a pretty short period of time when you are ready to receive the help and when you are ready to do the work. It is not something that has to take months or years for you to start feeling the difference. And Jill is a perfect example of that. I also lead group coaching programs, which provide an intimate setting for people to have those capability partners we were talking about earlier. I'll be leading a group program this fall, 6 weeks, to help you increase your clarity, build community with folks who are going through similar challenges, and really help you get clear on what it is that you're looking for and help you position yourself so that you'll be able to attract those kinds of opportunities that you're excited about. So thank you everyone for being here. And if you have any questions, let's go ahead and see those in the chat, or feel free to come off of mute. And since we are at time, if you need to depart, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you, Eric.
Absolutely.
If you're open for Q&A time, I've got a question for you.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
And maybe Jill has some insights too, but my question was on when you were making the transition from what you described as a 9-to-5 full-time work to your entrepreneurial pursuits, freelance, building your own business. How did you bridge that gap? And I imagine it took some time and probably a few iterations. I have recently found myself in that situation where I left a job and had an opportunity to work freelance and build my own business. But first I thought I would give myself 6 months. And then about 3 months in, I realized, you know what? I need an income or stability, or, you know, I wasn't fulfilled. And so, anyway, I'm curious to hear any tools or suggestions you have for bridging that gap between,
Sure.
especially as a single income earning household.
Yes. So when you are looking to make a transition, really any type of professional transition, it really helps when you can, as they say, build a runway for yourself. And again, for everybody, that's going to look different. So depending on where you live, cost of living, your personal needs, any kind of related obligations or family needs that there may be in the picture. So all of these different things have to go into the equation. So you need to do some math and you need to figure out, at least ballpark, what do I need? And I would say also don't just focus on the money, because money is one piece of things. It's not everything. And if you can take good care of yourself, you may need less money for medical needs and so forth. So thinking about things holistically, yes, the dollars matter. I'm a pragmatist. I'm not going to say that the dollars don't matter. I'm just going to say it's a yes and situation, as they say in improv, which means it's not only about the money, right? So what do you need to allow yourself to step into life as an entrepreneur? Or if that's, you know, speaking to somebody else, that's not their situation, but they want to change jobs. Okay, what do you need to save? What do you need to have? What do you need to create? What kind of a mindset do you need to cultivate? What kind of a support network do you need to create for yourself so that you feel emboldened, empowered, ready, confident, prepared to do that?
Thanks. That's helpful insights. In my case, I'll leave it at this, but I just felt like what I lacked was some of what you described as the community, or maybe other examples. And to be honest, I was following a lot of your LinkedIn content, and seeing you as a successful entrepreneur with your own business was helpful to me. And just some of the prompts that you put on LinkedIn, some of the email updates. So I didn't quite get there, but I think I'll give it another shot at a different time. But right now I'm hopefully deciding between 2 job offers this week. So
That's exciting. That's
yeah, so
exciting.
progress.
Well, please reach out if I might be of support as you're weighing your options.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on, you know, the steps that you've taken so far and where you've gotten to. What I will say is,
Thank
like in my case, you know, it took years for me to get to this point. I didn't even think about leaving my 9-to-5 job until a couple of years ago, when I'd already been coaching for years. So this was not an overnight sensation whatsoever in my case. And I think for many entrepreneurs that they would share similar stories. So it's kind of a funny story. I decided I wanted to learn more about how to run a business just a few years ago during the pandemic. And again, I'd already been coaching for many years. You know, I'd had probably already hundreds of clients at that point, but I really didn't know the business side of things, like whatsoever. I mean, I studied psychology, public administration, and law. So, you know, I knew some things about like running nonprofits and government budgeting, but like I didn't know about running a business so much. And so there was a real learning curve. And I reached out to an organization called SCORE that some of you might be familiar with. It's a great resource, especially when you're in the really early days and you just don't know what you need at all. They have free workshops. You can get a mentor, all for free, to help you learn some of the basics around marketing, sales, financial management, et cetera, et cetera. And I started meeting with a business coach. And this was a few years ago during the pandemic. And at one point, he asked me a question. I think it was pretty early on. It may have even been in our first session. And he said to me, well, how are you ever going to grow your business if you have a 9-to-5? my head almost exploded. I was like, what even are you talking about? I was speechless. I just like, huh? I had I'd never even thought about leaving my job for a whole bunch of reasons. And then he planted this seed in my head. Oh, let me tell you. And from there, I mean, the rest is history, as they say, you know, but it really got me thinking like, huh, well, isn't that a question? And the fact that it like bothered me so much really got me thinking, like, why is this question ruffling my feathers so much? Right? Like it, so that's part of the value of coaches, to be honest. And I know because I've worked with a lot of coaches, like asking questions that help get to the heart of the matter. And Jill, you might remember a few times when this happened in our work together. If any come to mind, feel free to share.
Yeah, I mean, it was that type of I'm almost laughing because that was precisely like, I don't think I ever could have done that part on my own, for sure. And, you know, David, your question about sort of what does it take? And I agree with you, Erica, the financial piece is important, but I wonder if there was some part of my brain that knew deep down, this is what I wanted. And that's why I reached out to you, because again, it was out of my control that the organization I was with made the decision they made, but I'm so grateful that I had that work with you under my belt, that was something that we'd done. And I don't think it's over, but just that had happened a few months prior, that was a huge piece that I didn't realize I was doing to prepare myself, you know, so the time is now, and that work had already started.
Right. This was you a few months ago, starting to build that runway, I feel, Jill. And really this topic of permission, I think, was big for you, of like giving yourself permission to do this, to invest in yourself in this, but like so many things around that topic of permission.
Yeah. Yep.
And now giving yourself permission to like not overwork yourself.
Right.
Right.
And permission to keep asking for help. You know, I think, you know, David, I saw you write something about sort of the practical pieces. I've been going through my LinkedIn network to see who might I reach out to see if there might be some work for us together. But I also have some contacts who are entrepreneurs and are 5 years into their successful businesses. And I'm grateful for any of their time they'll give me to answer those specific questions. You know, I kind of try to figure out for me, like, where is a conversation going to help me? Where is coaching going to help me? And but that's been a cool thing, like permission to really reach out to your network in different ways.
Congrats
Yes.
to both of you. Sounds like a big leap of faith. It's admirable.
Thank you so much. Scott or anyone else on the call, do you have anything you'd like to add? Any questions or observations?
I think this is it. This is the crew that's left. So I didn't have anything to add at this point. It's interesting to hear different people's journeys and what they've done as part of their career transitions, which is what I'm looking to do. Albeit at quite a bit different space, but it's always good to listen in and hear from other folks and what they've done and career coaches and their view on things here. So I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing, Scott. Is there anything about some of the challenges that you're encountering that you feel sort of tie in with what we've been covering together today in particular?
I wouldn't say anything in particular, I guess. I purposefully took time off when I'm in this is a tech sales industry, and you know, our industry has been hit by massive layoffs for the first time in history, all at the same time across the board. So I really, I think Jill, you mentioned it, was kind of took to heart to kind of just live in the moment or the quiet period and reassess. I've been through layoffs throughout my career, and when you're in sales, that's not uncommon, of course. Anyways, so usually what I've done is just taking a break, you know, just completely divest my energies from work. Because when you're in sales, you tend to be more of a workaholic than having a real personal life, nature of the beast, those sorts. And I always take that time off just to kind of reassess. And when you're in technology fields, looking at, all right, what are you going to do next? You know, what's the next greatest tech thing that's around the corner? And maybe you can get I used to say 5 to 8 year run on, and now it seems more like 2 to 5 is the norm, unfortunately. But much like I have in previous layoffs, at least the past couple were kind of fortunate timing, because when you live in Michigan, summertime's a lot nicer than winter. So I really just said, I'm not even going to bother. I haven't been looking at all since, final term date was end of April. And so I just took the summer off entirely and enjoyed the outdoors. And Jill, I think you mentioned it as well, as recognizing you wanted to get back to some things that were important to you, like fitness, health. Again, when you're in sales and working 12, 16 hours a day, that all goes out the window. It's just really tough to do. It's easy to say, hard to do. And that's why I refocused on my priorities. Also shifted for the first time in 20 years. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It doesn't drive me anymore like it used to. Yeah, the money's great and whatever it can be, but working those hours and watching life go by is just not, at some point you say enough's enough and your priorities change in life. So looking to make that shift, and then you got to figure, well, what would that shift be if you were to actually step back and say, if I could do anything, what might that be? And, I'm kind of been coming around to the notion of things in climate tech, things that have, more direct impact on people and our environment and everything that's developing, around environmental sustainability and things of that sort, where it's just doing more good for people en masse than making CEOs richer. I could care less about that. I'm just over that at this point, and want to do something that just feels good, right? And maybe for the first time in my career, quite honestly, do something where you actually have purpose and passion for something. And I've always really enjoyed the outdoors and clear, doing whatever you can to improve life for people and the environment around us, which is in so desperate need of so much help that, in at least the world that we live in particular today, it's a very monetary based system that motivates everyone to do everything. And so at some point, if as a species we're going to survive, you gotta make a transition somewhere along the way. So it could be part of that, little bit of that transition along the way, and kind of finish out a career where you felt like you're doing more good than maybe harm, all the better. So yeah, David, I'm on you right there. Purpose, passion, planet. Exactly.
Amen,
So
Scott.
Thank
that's
you
where
for
I'm at. Now I just got to
sharing.
find a job where I can do that.
Thank you, Scott. That is possible. I've, worked with hundreds of people to help them do that. So it's please know that it is possible. Happens all the time. So it's a journey, but it's definitely doable. And David, how about you? What are some of the areas that you're really passionate about? Well, you said you have some opportunities in front of you.
Sure. Well, it's funny because I think I'm very interested in a space that's similar to where you are. I've been in the climate clean tech industry for the last 10 plus years. And I have been in the sales seat like Scott. And I found when I was in growing companies in solar, energy storage, electric vehicles, energy management, software platforms, I was in these growing companies. I was bringing people into the company. I was hiring people. I was training people. I was recruiting people. And I kind of made this shift from sales to recruiting. And especially at this time, very similar to what Scott was saying, noticing a lot of people are laid off. There's a lot of talent available, people with ambitious goals and experience and skills. I found myself leaning more towards recruiting, and that's kind of the shift that I'm making. So part of the passion is bringing people into this world, bringing people into their passion and purpose. I feel like I've been there my whole life, to be honest, for professional. I haven't sacrificed in that regard, but I have not been a recruiter. I've not built the skills to call myself a certified master or coach. I've done it very much organically and very much as a kind of a side hustle, I suppose you could say, but I want to hone those skills and help find the people that will fuel the companies that are solving some of the problems that we face as a society and as a planet. So also along the lines of Scott, I'm not about making CEOs richer, but I do want to help the initiatives, organizations, companies that are tackling some of the biggest problems. And it feels great to connect people with their passion and purpose. You know, there are a lot of people out there like yourself, Scott, I think, that are looking to make a transition, that have been laid off or see a lot of shrinking companies and a lot of open doors inviting you to join climate tech, clean energy, all that. So that's where I would like to be. And the two companies I'm talking to are recruiting agencies focused on clean energy tech. So sorry, I rambled a bit there, but that's where I'm at. It's interesting place to be.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And so interesting that, you know, you share these interests and these passions. And my background is in sustainability and environmental protection advocacy. So I can very much relate to, you know, caring about these issues and actually fun story. Laurel, do you want to share at all about how you and I know each other? And then we'll start to close out.
Oh, sure. So Erica hired me to work as a communications intern at Boston University Sustainability. I believe my junior year of college, and I just graduated. So now I'm just doing some consulting work for her while I'm trying to get into more of like the environmental policy realm.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Laurel. And Jill, these issues are near and dear for you as well, I believe.
Yeah, it's not where I work, but I'm so grateful for those who do. I mean, it's paramount right now. So thank you to everyone.
All right, well, it's been a pleasure being together today. I hope this, you know, you feel this was a valuable use of your time, and I welcome the opportunity to keep in touch. So thank you, Laurel, for the link in the chat. If you haven't yet had a chance to book a one-on-one call, I invite you to do so. There are a few slots for this week and next. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jill. Well,
Thanks. I look forward
Erica,
to doing a one-on-one with you, Erica.
Excellent.
Booking it right now.
Likewise.
Have a great one.
Wonderful. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.